Hello, my name's Richard Falk, and I'd like to welcome you to this week's vlog. I joined RDaSH earlier this year as an Associate Non-Executive Director, otherwise known as a NED, and this month I've progressed to full NED status on the Trust Board. Prior to that, I worked for over 25 years as a full-time GP on the Isle of Axholme in North Lincolnshire, and I then spent a further 3 years near Perth in Western Australia, working for the Australian Medicare Service, which is their equivalent of our NHS. Now, some of you may be wondering what a NED is and how the role differs to that of executive board members. There are 7 NEDs on our board, and we all have different skill sets. With my clinical background, for example, I am chairperson of the Quality Committee. As a NED, it's not for me to draw up policy or implement it, but rather it's for me to have oversight of the things that the Trust is doing and to ensure that board decisions are in line with NHS policy and in the best interests of everyone we care for. I was at a national meeting recently where someone described the NED role as if one was acting as the conscience of the board. I agree with that, and I think it succinctly summarises how I view my role at RDaSH. However you might define it, it's an exciting role, and it's one that I'm really looking forward to getting involved in. As a local GP, I've had much experience of working with RDaSH, and I'm sure that many of you watching likewise have experience of working with GPs. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that relationships have not always been as harmonious as one might have hoped. The Darcy report has quite correctly, in my view, talked of the need to move care away from hospital and back into the community. And one of the things that attracted me to RDaSH is its vision in Strategic Objective 3 to extend the community offer across our whole portfolio. Now, clearly, the relationship with GPs is going to be critical to delivering this objective, and that's why it's encouraging for me to see that RDaSH has recently appointed Cheryl Gowland as Primary Care Strategic Lead. I'm looking forward to working with Cheryl and to seeing more productive relationships with all primary care staff over the coming weeks and months. So, after 6 months as an Associate Non-Executive Director, what do I think of RDaSH? Well, quite simply, I'm impressed. Over the years, I've worked as a GP on various NHS boards in North Lincolnshire, initially for the Primary Care Trust and latterly in the Clinical Commissioning Group, so I have quite a lot of experience working at board level. To date, one of the standout things for me is the honesty and integrity that runs through RDaSH as an organisation. Already in the last 6 months, I've sat in several meetings where the subject matter, be it clinical or financial, has been very challenging, but at no stage has anyone from the Chief Executive downwards ever sought to hide from the realities of the situation and retreated into what I call NHS groupthink, where the can is either pushed down the road or kicked into the long grass. Another standout, and something that attracted me to applying for this NED role in the first place, is the RDaSH vision to truly put the patient front and centre of everything we do. I applaud the strategic vision and our concept of 28 promises. Before I finish, therefore, I'd like to look at 2 of the promises in a little bit more detail, as they are particularly important to me. Firstly, Promise 7, Core 20 plus 5. Core 20 plus 5 is a national approach to reduce healthcare inequalities, and it targets 2 defined groups of people. The Core 20 are the most deprived 20% of the population, and the plus 5 includes specific communities whose characteristics put them at an increased risk of health inequality. Such groups include people from an ethnic minority, Roma and traveller communities, asylum seeker and refugee communities, autistic people, people with severe mental illness, or people with learning disabilities. As a GP, I was often frustrated to see physical health and mental health so often treated as if they were 2 separate things. Promise 7 aims to achieve 95% coverage of health checks for citizens with severe mental illness and those with learning disability from 2024. In my view, these checks need to be holistic and result in detailed and individualised assessments and not just be a box-ticking episode. As chair of the Quality Committee, I'll be looking for assurance in 2025 and beyond that we deliver on this promise. And finally, Promise 12, rural inequalities. Many of you will know that the Isle of Axholme, where I used to work, is one of the most rural communities that RDaSH serves. And in amongst the day-to-day of our busy working lives, it's easy to forget the specific and unique problems that rural patients suffer in terms of public transport, internet access, or even simple isolation. I recently met with Vicky Clare at a board timeout. Vicky is the Care Group Nurse Director for North Lincolnshire and NHS Talking Therapies, and I was impressed with the work that has already been undertaken in North Lincolnshire to start to address some of these rural issues. I look forward to seeing further progress over the next year. So, enough from me. I'm very excited to have taken up my Quality Committee role, and I look forward to delivering my non-executive director duties for the benefits of the patients that we all serve. I hope to meet some of you in future weeks, months, and years. Thank you for listening, and have a great weekend.